My stepmom invited me to her birthday party only to claim I had taken the family business from her daughter. "Give back what isn't yours," my stepmom Marian shouted, her voice echoing across the grand hall. "You stole my daughter's legacy." The lights seemed to dim as all eyes fixed on me. My heart was pounding so hard I nearly dropped my champagne glass. My name is Luna Collins, a 31-year-old pianist who never imagined running my father's manufacturing company. Just an hour earlier, I'd walked into the upscale hotel ballroom for Marianne's 55th birthday celebration, hoping to smooth over old wounds. I had believed that maybe, finally, she was ready to put the past behind her after my father's passing a year ago. But I couldn't have been more mistaken. This wasn't a gesture of reconciliation. It was an ambush. According to her, the company belonged to Haley. Marianne kept striding toward me as murmurs spread through the crowd. "Your father built this company for his own kids, and you twisted his mind when he was sick." I scanned the room, searching desperately for a friendly face among the sea of Houston's business elite. People I'd been working with for months, clients, suppliers, community leaders who had respected me. Now they looked on in shock and growing disapproval. "That's not how it happened." I tried to protest, but my voice came out weak. My father's will had been clear. He wanted his true daughter to take over. Marianne snapped back, not the piano-playing charity case who barely visited him. Tears welled to my eyes as her words struck home. I'd toured around the world for years, and yes, I hadn't been home as much as I should have. The guilt was something I carried daily, but hearing it out in public was devastating. Behind Marianne, my stepsister Haley stood with a self-satisfied smile on her face. She had never shown any interest in the business while Dad was alive, but now she was nodding at every word her mother said. "Exactly, isn't it?" someone murmured from a nearby table. "It's odd how she suddenly appears whenever Arthur got sick." Another voice joined in as the room seemed to close in around me, and soon someone even booed. The whispers quickly escalated into outright hostility. "I think you should leave," Marianne said calmly, as if she were completely in control. "No one wants a thief at this party." I started toward the exit with trembling legs, a single thought echoing in my mind. I wasn't going to let this go. Not tonight, not ever. I reached my car before the tears finally broke out. Sitting in the dark parking lot, I gripped the steering wheel as sobs racked my body. The humiliation stung like acid. These weren't just random onlookers. They were respected members of Houston's business community, people whose esteem I had worked so hard to earn over the past year. My father, Arthur Collins, had built Collins Industries from nothing over 40 years. He married Marianne when I was 15, welcoming her and 12-year-old Haley into our lives after my mother died. While Dad was alive, Marianne played the role of the supportive wife. But everything shifted after he was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago. I remember sitting beside his hospital bed as he held my hand. "Luna," he said weakly but with determination, "you have a knack for business, something Haley just doesn't have. She's smart, but she doesn't care about Collins Industries. I've seen how you think things through and how you know what makes things work." He squeezed my hand. "I'm leaving the company to you, and I need you to promise you'll take care of it." I had abandoned my touring career to keep that promise. At first, when the will was read, Marianne and Haley had accepted his decision, but within weeks, their subtle undermining turned into outright hostility. Tonight was just the public climax of a year-long campaign to discredit me. As I wiped away my tears, my phone buzzed with a text from Edward Jacobs, my father's longtime attorney and the executor of his will. "I just heard what happened. Are you okay? Call me." I dialed him immediately, still shaky as I recounted everything that had happened. "This is unacceptable," Edward said in his familiar deep tone, filled with anger. "Marianne knows full well that your father was of sound mind when he made that will. We have video of him explaining his decisions. She's challenged the will 3 times and lost every single appeal. Everyone believes her version." I whispered, "But Edward, everyone in that room thinks I'm some kind of manipulative thief." There was a pause before he asked the question that changed everything. "Do you have your laptop with you?" "It's in my trunk," I replied, confused by the sudden shift in topic. "All right, meet me at my office in 30 minutes. If Marianne wants to make this a public issue, Let's give the public the full story. Every document, every court filing, every piece of evidence your father left to protect you from a scenario like this. For the first time since fleeing the ballroom, I felt not only humiliation, but a spark of determination. I'll be there in 20, I said, starting the engine. When I arrived at Edward's office, a sleek glass and steel building downtown, he buzzed me in immediately. I found him surrounded by neatly labeled binders and files. I've been organizing these ever since your father passed, he explained, gesturing to the piles of documents. Arthur had known that Marion might try something like this. He was always several steps ahead. As Edward pulled out files, I paced around the office, my anger slowly replacing the earlier shame. I still don't get why she'd do this in public. She's already lost the legal battle over the will. What is she trying to gain? Edward looked up at me with serious gray eyes. Marion has always cared more about appearances and social status. If she can't legally take control of the company, she'll try to make your position unbearable by turning the business community against you. And right now, she's succeeding. I recalled the hostile stares from earlier in the night, but Edward continued. Your father recorded everything. The times Haley said she wasn't interested in the business, the management courses he encouraged you to take when you were on tour, and the strategy sessions you both had whenever you were home. He handed me a USB drive. This contains video testimony from your father, recorded 3 months before he passed, specifically to stop Marianne from questioning his competence. I clutched the drive, remembering how weak Dad had been that day, yet his mind was sharper than ever. Although I knew about this recording, I hadn't been able to watch it since his death. There's more, Edward added. Financial records showing how you've grown the company by 22% since you took over, employee testimonials about how you saved jobs when a major contract fell through, and minutes from board meetings where you even offered Haley a director role, which she turned down because she didn't want to deal with the boring paperwork. A plan began to form in my mind. Is that color printer of yours still lightning fast? Edward asked with a smile, as if the question held a hidden meaning. Absolutely, and I have enough binders for another hour of work, he replied. We spent the next while sorting through irrefutable documents that told the true story of the succession at Collins Industries. Edward printed out court decisions, financial statements, and employee letters, and I organized them into presentation binders, one for every table at the party. As we worked, Edward called 3 of his associates, respected attorneys who agreed to meet us at the hotel, lending even more credibility to our presentation. This isn't just about clearing your name tonight, Edward said as we wrapped up. It's about making sure you have a secure future. After this, Marianne won't be able to undermine you again. I glanced at my watch. It was just past 10 p.m. The party's still going strong, I noted, loading the binders into Edward's SUV. My father always used to say that in business, you don't just defend yourself when attacked. You counter with such overwhelming evidence that your opponent regrets ever questioning you. Edward smiled. He'd be proud of you tonight. I took a deep breath. Let's go. The drive back to the hotel was quiet, filled with nervous energy as Edward navigated through downtown Houston's busy Saturday night traffic. In the back seat, the binders sat like a testament to my entire life. My father's wishes, my hard work, my proof of legitimacy. As we pulled up to the valet stand, Edward reminded me, remember, you're not just Arthur Collins' daughter tonight. You're the CEO of Collins Industries. We unloaded the SUV, and Edward's 3 colleagues joined us at the entrance. The 4 attorneys, dressed impeccably, created a sort of legal fortress around me. The same doorman who had seen me flee in tears earlier now stepped aside, eyes wide in astonishment. My heart pounded as we approached the ballroom doors. Inside, the party carried on as if nothing had happened. Crystal glasses clinked, expensive perfumes filled the air, and a string quartet played a familiar waltz. But the moment I stepped through the door, a hush fell over the nearby tables, and the room went silent as heads turned and conversations died down. Marianne stood near the dessert table, champagne flute in hand, looking triumphant. When she saw me, her smile vanished. Haley, standing beside her, grabbed her arm and whispered urgently. Then Edward's authoritative voice boomed across the room. Ladies and gentlemen, please excuse this interruption. I'm Edward Jacobs, longtime counsel to Arthur Collins and executor of his estate. There seems to be a big misunderstanding about Collins Industries that needs clearing up. The quartet stopped playing, and every eye in the room turned toward us. Earlier that evening, serious accusations have been made against me, Luna Collins, the rightful CEO of Collins Industries. My colleagues and I are here to present the legal and factual record, Edward continued. My legs trembled slightly as we moved forward. The attorneys began handing out binders to each table, while I walked directly to the small stage where one of the musicians handed me the microphone. Just a couple of hours ago, I was accused of stealing my father's company. I began, my voice surprisingly steady. I was called a thief and a manipulator, booed and humiliated in front of all of you. I paused, scanning the room. Some guests lowered their eyes, unable to meet mine, while others looked confused as they flipped through the binders. My stepmom, Marion Collins, arranged all of this. What she didn't tell you is that she challenged my father's will 3 times in court, and she lost every single time because my father's wishes were clear and legally binding. As Marianne started moving toward me, 2 of Edward's colleagues stepped in between us. Before you jump to conclusions, I continued, I'd like you to hear from my father. Edward connected the USB drive to the sound system. The screen flickered, and then my father appeared, thin, yet with clear eyes, sitting in his study at home. The room fell silent as his image filled the screen. Despite his illness, he sat upright in his leather chair, his once strong frame now lean, but his eyes still shone with intelligence. Some people gasped, not having seen how much he had declined in his final months. My name is Arthur Collins, he began in a raspy but firm voice, and I'm recording this statement on March 15th of last year with my attorney Edward Jacobs and Dr. Karen Miles, who confirmed my mental competence, present. The camera briefly showed both professionals before returning to my father. I'm the founder and CEO of Collins Industries. After much thought, I have decided to give controlling interest in my company to my daughter, Luna Collins. He shifted slightly, wincing before continuing. I want to explain why I made this decision, as I know it might cause conflict after I'm gone. His gaze seemed to fall directly on Marianne, even though he couldn't have known she would be watching this recording at her own birthday party a year later. Luna has shown both the skill and passion needed to lead Collins Industries. Despite her career as a pianist, she has spent countless hours learning the business, analyzing our operations, and understanding the industry. She even took business courses at my suggestion and has proved her talent for strategic planning. The video then cut to clips of me at the factory with my dad, reviewing blueprints and meeting clients, moments I hadn't even realized were being recorded. My stepdaughter Haley has been given several opportunities to get involved in the company over the years, but she has consistently turned them down. At one family dinner, I even heard her say, and I quote, "I have no interest in spending my life making dull industrial parts." The video showed Haley at a dinner, rolling her eyes as she repeated those exact words, and then declining a management training offer during a meeting in Dad's office. I love both of my daughters, Dad continued, but a business must be run by someone who truly cares about it, and Luna has that care. I was completely sound in making this decision. On the screen, Dr. Karen Miles appeared briefly, confirming his mental competence with her credentials clearly shown. The video ended with my father looking straight into the camera. I trust Luna to protect my legacy and the livelihoods of everyone at Collins Industries. As the screen went dark, I looked around and saw many guests now poring over the binders, their expressions shifting from judgment to shock and dismay. Since taking over, I said into the microphone, Collins Industries has increased revenue by 22%, expanded into 2 new markets, added 17 new jobs, and avoided any layoffs, even after losing that major contract. I nodded toward Edward, who was displaying financial charts on the screen. On page 12 of your binders, you'll find letters from longtime employees who have supported my leadership for decades. Taking a deep breath, I continued. Page 15 includes the formal job offer extended to Haley 3 months ago, a director role with significant authority but fewer day-to-day responsibilities. She declined it via email, saying she had better things to do than waste time in a factory. I could see Haley's face flush as several guests turned to look at her. "The final section," I said, my voice growing stronger, "contains court decisions that rejected Marianne's challenges to my father's will. 3 different judges found no evidence of any manipulation, and medical reports confirmed that Dad was fully competent when making his decision." I stepped forward, placing the microphone down briefly as I looked directly at Marianne, who stood frozen near the dessert table. "You told me to return what isn't mine," I said loud enough for everyone to hear, "but these documents prove beyond any doubt that Collins Industries is exactly where my father wanted it, under my control." I picked up the microphone again and addressed the whole room. "I understand many of you were misled tonight. You heard only one side of a complicated story and reacted based on incomplete information. All I ask is that you take the time to review the evidence before making further judgments." The atmosphere shifted. The hostility was gone, replaced by discomfort and embarrassment. Marcus Reed, the CEO of our largest client, stood up from his table and said, "Luna, I owe you an apology. I should have known better than to accept such serious accusations without question." His public admission seemed to break a dam, and soon other guests began flipping through the binders more intently, murmuring among themselves. At one back table, someone started a slow round of applause, and gradually others joined in. Marianne finally broke through the circle of attorneys, storming toward me with Haley trailing behind. "How dare you?" she hissed in a low, venomous tone. "This is my birthday party, and you've turned it into a corporate show. This is exactly why Arthur should never have left you the company, because you have no class, no sense of propriety." I smiled calmly, knowing every eye was on us. "Interesting take, Marianne, considering you used your own birthday celebration to publicly accuse me of theft and force me out. You really twisted his memory." Haley interjected, her voice shaking with anger. "You weren't even there for him." Edward stepped forward with his tablet in hand. "Actually, the visitor logs from the hospital and hospice show that Luna visited your father 83 times during his last 6 months. According to the same records, Haley visited 12 times, and you, Mrs. Collins, visited 37 times." Haley's mouth opened, but no words came out. Marianne snapped, "The company was meant to secure our future." I replied firmly, "Dad's will provided generously for both of you. The trusts he set up ensure you'll never face financial worries. What he didn't do was give you control of his life's work, because he knew what might happen if he did." For a moment, Marianne's face twisted in rage. I thought she might strike me, but instead she grabbed Haley's arm and started dragging her toward the exit. "This isn't over," she shouted over her shoulder. "Actually, it is," Edward called after her. "Any further legal challenges will be deemed vexatious, and we'll seek sanctions." As they disappeared through the doors, the tension in the room visibly drained away. Guests began coming up to me, apologizing and congratulating me on the company's success. Some admitted they'd always found Marianne's version suspicious, but hadn't felt comfortable speaking up. Richard Monroe, the former CFO who had worked with my father for 20 years before retiring, came over and squeezed my hand. "Arthur was right about you, Luna. You got his backbone. He used to say you had your mother's talent, but his business sense." Tears pricked my eyes, not tears of humiliation this time, but of gratitude. "Thank you, Richard. That means everything to me." As the night went on, I found myself surrounded by support instead of scorn. Edward stayed nearby, a satisfied smile on his face, and the attorneys began collecting the binders once they had served their purpose. "What now?" Edward asked as the party slowly resumed. I looked around at the room filled with Houston's business elite, people who would be crucial to Collins Industries' future success. "Now," I said, straightening my shoulders, "I network. I'm not just Arthur Collins' daughter tonight. I'm a CEO of Collins Industries." 6 months have passed since Marianne's disastrous birthday bash, a night that changed not only how the business community saw me, but also how I saw myself. Walking back into that ballroom with undeniable evidence, and the truth transformed me in ways I'm still coming to understand. Collins Industries has grown far beyond even my most optimistic expectations. After the party, several guests approached me with new business opportunities. Marcus Reed's company doubled their order, and 3 former clients who had been on the fence returned with long-term contracts. Our workforce grew by 32 employees, and we even opened a second facility in Austin. The fallout from Marianne and Haley wasn't what anyone expected. 2 weeks later, Haley showed up unannounced at my office. She sat nervously across from me, twisting her hands, and said flatly, "I need a job." Mom spent nearly all her savings on those legal battles, and my trust from Dad won't fully mature for another 3 years. I studied her face, looking for any sign of deceit, but only seeing desperation. "Why come to me after everything that happened?" she admitted reluctantly. "Because you're the O. NLY1 actually succeeding. Everyone else in Mom's social circle is just pretending." Against Edward's advice, I offered Haley an entry-level role in our marketing department. To my surprise, she accepted, and even more surprisingly, she has shown a real knack for the work. We're not friends, and maybe we never will be, but there's a growing professional respect between us. Marianne, on the other hand, left Houston shortly after the party. She moved to Phoenix, reportedly chasing after a wealthy new widower, and I doubt our paths will cross again anytime soon. My personal life has also changed drastically. For years, music was my identity. The piano was my lifelong companion through childhood loneliness after Mom died, through the awkward blending of families when Dad married Marianne, and even through the grueling schedules of conservatory and touring. When Dad got sick and I stepped away from performing, I thought it was just a temporary break. Running Collins Industries, however, awakened something unexpected in me. The challenge of leadership, the satisfaction of creating jobs, and the thrill of solving problems. Things that fulfill me in ways I never imagined. I still play the piano, usually late at night after the work is done, but now my relationship with music is more personal and less about performance. Last month, I did something Dad would have loved. I started the Arthur Collins Foundation, dedicated to bringing music education to underprivileged schools across Texas. The foundation also offers business mentorship to young entrepreneurs, combining both sides of my life into something truly meaningful. At our launch event, I performed in public for the first time since taking over the company, playing Dad's favorite nocturne on a grand piano we brought into the factory. As I played among the machines he built, surrounded by employees whose livelihoods he had secured and I now protect, I felt his presence more strongly than I had since his passing. I realized that inheritance isn't just about money or property. It's about carrying forward the best parts of those we've lost while adding our own unique contributions. The business community that once booed me now sees Collins Industries as a model of innovation and ethical leadership. The company is thriving. Haley is finding her own way, and I've discovered a new balance between the artist I once was and the businesswoman I've become. Dad was right after all. Some legacies aren't stolen, they're earned.